Hi. Greetings from the Great Sage. Before we start, please subscribe and hit the notification bell icon and don't miss any contents. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 16. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 16. The End of the Game. Chapter 1. The Betrayal. Apito vs Dino. Dino, on the other hand, after correctly recognizing the current situation, he knew that he was not in an advantageous position. The failed surprise attack was a huge mistake. It had needlessly led to more battles, and the plan was thwarted into chaos. Although the difference in ability between Beretta and Dino was enormous, there was not much of a gap between skill levels. However, it was clear that Beretta was nearing his limits. But this was Ramras's labyrinth, and Beretta could be resurrected, even if he died. He did not have to worry about depleting his remaining energy, nor would he be damaged by using excessive force. It was only because he could ignore all these restrictions that he was able to give his all to resist Dino. They were protected by environmental effects, but even that had its limits. Beretta was not strong enough to overturn the decisive power difference. But still, it's quite remarkable. I didn't think that a dependent of black would be so difficult. Dino had raised his evaluation of Beretta. If it had been Cherries or Trainee, the game would have ended more quickly. Those two were by no means weak, but angels had an overwhelming advantage over the spirits. Also, there was too much a difference in combat experience. But Beretta, as befitting a member of the Black Line, had a level of skill that was comparable to that of Dino's. He was in a situation where even a single blow would kill him instantly, yet he had the courage to calmly assess Dino's attack. Not only did he never give up on victory, but he even seemed to enjoy the situation. Even when Dino intentionally showed an opening, Beretta did not take the bait. That alone was worthy of praise, but it was surprising to Dino that he was even wounded by the occasional counterattack. The Fallen were not good at dealing with holy attributes, but it was not a decisive weakness. Nevertheless, Beretta's attack was doing damage. It was a blow that combined both holy and demonic attributes, and even Dino's defense barrier could not prevent it. Dino judged that it was practically impossible to defend against this attack. As with the spirit attacks, unless he could overcome it with his willpower, he would surely be damaged. To Dino, who was a former seraph and familiar with the laws of this world, it was astonishing that a mere unique level skill could damage him. Beretta's amazing combat acumen was deserving of praise. However, Dino was also getting used to Beretta's movements. Dino knew that the more he swung his big sword, the bigger the gap would be. Beretta took advantage of his gap and attacked him, which was unexpected but within tolerance. At first glance, Beretta seemed to be suppressing Dino, since Dino's attacks didn't even graze him. However, Kuzurakiba could easily slice through even an adamantite body. There was no problem in Dino's opinion because it would only take one blow to reverse the situation. Beretta was also well aware of the current situation and was stalling for time. It seemed that Beretta had decided that Dino could not be defeated by accumulating attacks, so he was focusing more on defense. Well, that's the right answer, isn't it? For Beretta, defending Ramras is a victory. Dino was not a fool either, seeing through Beretta's inner thoughts. As long as Ramras was there, the people in the labyrinth would not die. Conversely, if Ramras was killed, the labyrinth would end immediately. There was no guarantee that the labyrinth would be safe if she was kidnapped, so it was only natural for Beretta to prioritize buying time. At this rate, Beretta would eventually get what he wanted. However, things would not be that easy. Unfortunately for Beretta, Dino still had a final hand. The reason Dino was stalling Beretta was because he needed to neutralize Beretta here. It was very troublesome to fight against an opponent who would resurrect even if you killed him. It would have been nice if he could just get to Ramras before Beretta resurrected, but it was certain that the others would get in the way if that happened. If he attacked with the intent to kill, then it might end up involving Ramras as well. Dino was sincere when he said that he had no intention to kill Ramras, and that had become a shackle, binding him to the current situation and making things more difficult for him. This is honestly so troublesome. I can't believe how much work it's taking just to neutralize Beretta. It would have been easier to just defeat him, but now that I've finished my preparations, I guess it doesn't matter. Beretta, you've done well. Now slothful sleep, fall in hypno. Dino unleashed his power. It was a non-lethal, wide-range attack of the unique skill Sloth. All life forms would be lulled into a deep sleep and would not be able to wake up until the caster released them. There was no point in resisting with willpower. It was one of the most powerful abilities of the Deadly Sin series, but it took a long time to activate, just like the name Sloth implied. However, only those with ultimate skill would be able to resist it. At the unique skill level, it was a fearsome attack that could be said to be the strongest. Dino wanted to neutralize Beretta and the others in the gentlest way possible. He didn't want to hurt Shinji and Alpha and the others, who were in the control room trying to protect Ramrus. Vesta, who he had put to sleep first, was also a boss whom he truly respected. And Shinji and the others were his colleagues, with whom he felt a sense of camaraderie. In truth, I really did not want to betray them. However, Feldway's orders were absolute, and he could not resist them. Really, I'm sorry. Don't feel bad. I'll ask Feldway to see if he can leave this place alone. Dino muttered to himself as Beretta collapsed. He glanced at the sleeping Ramrus, thinking that he'd finally done his job, and began extending his hand towards her. I won't let you. A cold voice stopped him in his tracks. Seriously? Dino turned to see a woman standing there. The slender cilia of her body were shining in gold and silver. The exoskeleton that protected the essential parts were a jet black, glossy adamantite. 2 pairs of wings, shining blue like those of a morpho butterfly, were the same color as the compound eyes on her forehead, exuding a mysterious charm. The true identity of the woman was Apito, who had awakened from her evolutionary slumber. The coloration of each part of her body had changed from before her evolution, but her shape remained almost the same as before. However, Apito's overall beauty had been enhanced. As the insect queen, she exuded an aura of majesty and was more queenly than ever before. Apito just in time. I want you to destroy my holy demon core. Because demons did not need sleep, Beretta was barely able to resist the fallen Hypno. Despite being reduced to a state of low activity, sleep mode, he did everything in his power to ask Apito for help. Beretta-sama. You can't move, but you're still conscious. Dino's reaction was delayed for a moment due to his surprise. As a result, he was unable to stop Apito's action. Without asking why, Apito sent her poisonous needle to destroy Beretta's holy demon core. Apito's regenerative Osiris rapier pierced the strong adamantite with ease. She was able to create as many Osiris rapiers as she wanted within her own body. Nevertheless, without evolution, Apito would not have been able to kill Beretta. Beretta laughed. Hehehe, well done. With this, I will die and rise again unharmed. I shall leave things to you for a while, Apito. Beretta had retired as leader of the dungeon's Elite 10, but he was still Ramrus's second in command. He still has the authority to give orders to the Elite 10. Understood. Unfortunately, I do not think I'll be able to beat him, so I look forward to your early return. Contrary to her words, Apito's voice sounded confident of her victory. Dino seemed to sense this as well, and muttered in an annoyed tone. You've got to be kidding me, such an accurate judgment, so there's no way to take advantage of it. Dino was correct in his judgment. Leaving the rest to Apito, Beretta disintegrated into a particle of light. Immediately after that, Apito soared beyond the speed of sound. The battle in the control room intensified even further. I really hate this. That was Dino's unvarnished opinion. Apito was not Dino's enemy, but she couldn't be killed in the labyrinth either. Even if he wanted to finish her off quickly and secure Ramrus, Apito would use her speed to get in the way. She wasn't fighting Dino head-on, but was thoroughly implementing more of a hit-and-run tactic, moving in and out flexibly. The newly evolved Apito had a speed-focused fighting style. She was well aware of her own characteristics and made efficient use of them. Her existence value was around 700,000, but she was equal to Dino in terms of speed alone. Besides, even if he took some effort to kill her, Beretta would have returned by then. It shouldn't take more than a minute, but that couldn't be helped because it was teleportation. Even against Dino, who was far superior to Beretta, he wouldn't need more than 10 seconds, so Apito alone was able to buy time. In this situation, there were few moves Dino could make. The most reliable option was to put Beretta and Apito to sleep at the same time. Dino calmed himself down and tried to activate the unique skill Sloth once again. Regardless of whether there are 2 opponents, it took time to activate the skill. That's why Dino decided to stop panicking and check the status of his companions with a calm mind, not unlike that of a combatant. The first thing that caught his attention was the sight of Rimuru fighting Velgrund, who had been victorious in the Battle of the Monsters. How the hell did he get out of there? I mean, he's fighting on equal terms with Velgrund. To be honest, he was completely stunned. According to Feldway, Demon Lord Rimuru and his commanding officers were sealed off in Velgrund's otherworldly realm. Rimuru was able to figure out the coordinates of his location through the soul corridors between him and his companions and had escaped easily, but Dino, who didn't know that, was puzzled. What was more surprising to him was Rimuru's strength. It looked as if he was pushing against a seemingly invincible Velgrund. Dino couldn't help but feel anxious. If we don't move forward with the mission quickly, we might be in trouble. With that in mind, Dino turned his attention to the others. The main point of Feldway's plan was to secure Ramrus. Dino had initially stayed in the labyrinth because Guy ordered him to be there, and it was nothing more than a coincidence, but it was unfortunate that it had caught Feldway's attention. Although Dino was reluctant to do so, he had to resign himself to the fact that he was the only one who could enter the control room, which was the most heavily guarded room. As for how Feldway and the others were going to get in, a bold strategy had been devised. He had incited Velgrin to destroy the labyrinth in order to call out Vildora. To Dino's surprise, the plan succeeded without difficulty. Then, with Feldway himself leading the way, the invasion was carried out. Accompanying Feldway were 2 of the 3 Phantom commanders and 5 generals brought by Zelario. There were 8 of them in all. 2 of the top commanders had been recruited for this operation, which was a tremendous in itself. Only a Beretta of the 3 Phantom commanders had been left to guard the Palace of Monsters in the depths of the Otherworld. When Dino heard of this plan, he could not hide his surprise at their drastic actions. Dino was not the only one who was approached by the remaining colleagues of the originals on the surface. The remaining 2 who had been living undercover in a human country were also called into the operation. They were Dino's subordinates, but Feldway had taken the liberty of using them without permission. Their role was to keep the labyrinth in its state of destruction. It was a precautionary measure in case Dino failed. If Ramrus wanted to, her labyrinth could be turned into a prison. That would make it very difficult to escape from, so Feldway took steps to prevent that from happening in advance. Dino cared the most about his 2 subordinates, so he first confirmed where they were on the monitor. Hey, no way. Even with Pico and Gracia as opponents, they're able to fight on equal footing. Pico was the petite beautiful girl, and Gracia was the tall female warrior. After Vildora was defeated by Velgrind, the city, which had been isolated in the labyrinth, was brought back to the surface. At this point, Geld had come forward to defend the city, but Dino had no idea that he could rival Pico and Gracia. Geld, the Barrier Lord, and Kumara, the Chimera Lord. By the way, Kumara had that group of beasts. Is she a cryptid? Could she be related to the world-destroying dragon Ivorage? No way. Dino hastily quashed the unpleasant thoughts that had involuntarily flashed through his mind. Then, while thinking, they really are the 12 Guardian Lords, he shifted his gaze to the other battlefield. The one fighting there was Zelario, of the 3 Phantom commanders. Oh, that Zelario guy is as strong as ever. He doesn't seem to be taking it seriously at all, and he's showing a lot of confidence against Cherries and Trainee. His old colleague was still as strong as ever. He had already felt at the time that Zelario was terrifyingly strong, and even after thousands of years he was still creepy to look at on the screen. He looked fine, so Dino checked out the next monitor. Cornu. From what I've heard, he was defeated in a major invasion a few decades ago. Is that why he seems so impatient? As Dino had predicted, Cornu was in a hurry. It was no wonder. He had lost his entire army in the last defeat and had been injured so badly that it would take several decades to recover. If he failed this time, he would be purged by Feldway. Moreover, Feldway was supposed to be hiding at Cornu's side by now, so Dino thought that Cornu must be under a lot of pressure and was not able to perform as well as usual. Unlucky guy. But then again, Masayuki is really weak and the people standing in his way don't seem like a big deal. I'm concerned about Venom being a dependent of Black, but he seems to be a newcomer compared to Beretta, so I guess it should be fine. Dino wasn't too worried about Cornu since they weren't that close to begin with. Even if Cornu failed, Feldway would take care of it. In other words, the operation seemed to be going well. Perhaps it was because of this sense of security that Dino's lazy mind got mixed up in the distractions. But it's incredibly strange. Why do I have to worry about the success or failure of this mission? I don't understand. That was a very important point of suspicion. For some reason, Dino could not shake his feeling of discomfort about this mission. He could not figure out why, and it left him feeling uncomfortable, as if the cause was on the tip of his tongue. But alas. What are you playing at, Dino? I'm about to make my move, so you do your job quickly. The peaceful moment had come to an end. Gee, I really don't want to work. Dino had nothing against Beretta and Apito, in fact, he rather liked them very much. That was why he was even more disgusted by this order. But, orders could not be disobeyed. Thinking that it couldn't be helped, Dino decided to get serious. That's all for today, hope you guys enjoy this video. Please check my other YouTube videos, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon, and don't miss any updates.